This is a production of WTVI PBS Charlotte.
The following episode of Charlotte Cooks is brought to you by Central Piedmont Community College and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Chef Pamela Roberts, and I love welcoming you to this episode of Charlotte Cooks. Today, we're going to be cooking up a mess of greens, and I'm going to tell you the difference between tough greens, tender greens, and basically how to cook them. So it's going to be a fast and furious show. There's going to be a lot of green stuff. We're going to start off with collards, because collards usually take a while to cook. Now, I have to tell you, here in the South, when we cook collards, we sometimes cook collards way too long. They put it in the pot and they stay in the pot for an hour, 2 hours, sometimes all afternoon. And so when they come out of the pot, they're kind of gray and dull looking, okay? Well, one of the things that I want to talk about, and while I'm cleaning up the collards over here, I'll tell you a little bit about the science and theory about the best ways of cooking collards. Collard greens, nice big broad leaves. They're beautiful. They're what we consider a tough green. It's not a tender green by any. You could not take this and nosh on it, just raw like this, because it would be a little bit on the tough side. In fact, you could use these as fans in the summer if it gets too hot. One thing I want to show you, when you're buying your greens, now this is a bunch of kale, this is also a little bit of collard, but when you're buying greens, you should look at the bunches very, very carefully. And if you see leaves like this that are green, I mean, of course they're green, they're greens, but if they get yellow bits on them, and they may have a lot of insect holes in them, you want to look at your leaves and make sure that your leaves look good. If you find little bits of dirt on them, I wouldn't be worried about dirt because you can wash the dirt away. When you look at them, you're looking for places like this, things that are starting to turn yellow. Okay, you see how this leaf is starting to turn yellow, and it's a little limpy. You know, it's not as sturdy a green as the fresh ones are. You could see this here, how they're just starting to turn yellow. When you see these are really old and they're starting to go bad on you. If you brought them home and put them in your refrigerator, they may not last but a day or two. Sometimes people only shop for a week. So when you're buying your greens, always look for nice, the darkest green leaves you can without any bug holes in them, okay? Insects like this food too, so you gotta look for them. With your collards, you're gonna take them over to the sink and you're just gonna run them. I've already washed and dried these because I didn't want to have to take a lot of time to do that today. But I washed and dried them, and I'm going to show you how you're going to clean them up. You're going to basically remove the stems from them. So you just take it, pull the leaves off like this, throw that away. There's really no use for that. Now, if you're using Swiss chard, you can save those stems and use them. Actually, when you get Swiss chard, you get two vegetables with it. You get the leaves and the stems and the stalks, and you cook them separately because they're just totally different. Notice how I'm cleaning these. I'm just pulling the stalks off, and it pulls out any extra fibers that might be on the end. And I'm making a nice little stack, like I'm stacking a bunch of papers. What I'm going to show you how to do is a cut that's called a chiffonade, okay? And chiffonade is a cut that you use for leafy green things. It can be from anywhere from basil to anything that's green and leafy, okay? If you get little bits off your stalks, just go ahead and save those too. Over here on the stove, I've got a pot of water on the stove. Now see, look at this. This is fine. When they do something like this, you want to go ahead and just pull that off, because sometimes what's pulling off there are some tough fibers that are not going to be digestible, and they may get stuck in your teeth, and they may not be exactly what you'd call appetizing, okay? So we're going to do this, and I've only got one more to go. I'm going to stack my collards like this. And I've already cut up quite a few of them because, you know greens, when you cook greens, they cook down a little bit. You may get a big volume, and I'll show you on spinach later. You may get a great big volume, but, you got to cook a lot of them because they cook down. Even collards. Spinach, as you know, might just disappear. I want to make sure I've got a pot of boiling water on the stove here. I'm going to take my greens. Now you see I've got them all stacked up. I'm going to roll them up like a cigar, okay? Roll them up just like this. And I'm going to take my stalks and put them in the garbage. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut them in about 1-inch pieces like this, okay? And this is what's called the chiffonade. Basically, long ribbons. If you were doing this for another kind of a dish, like you were doing this with basil leaves, you might want to cut them really, really tight together because that's going to make a nice thin ribbon. But for greens, we don't want little bitty slivers of greens. Now, another thing, if you leave this just like this, your ribbons are going to be rather long. And when you try to eat the greens, you know, there's no delicate way of eating a long green. It comes up, slaps you in the face while you're trying to get it in your mouth. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take our knife then and run it right down the middle. And so that way we get nice short pieces instead of nice big long pieces. I missed that one. Put them all in a big bowl, okay? You're going to take this over. This is one of the ways that we're going to cook the greens today. We're cooking these by the boiling method. If you steam greens, what you're going to find is that your greens will have a very bitter flavor to them. If you saute, but these particular, the hardy greens, the collards in particular I'm talking about right now, when you take these and if you put them in a steamer, and everybody thinks, oh, steaming is a really good way of cooking food, especially vegetables, because it's very healthy. But yes, but you have to understand the components of the vegetable that you're cooking. These vegetables, this particular green, has an enzyme and an acid in it that if you were to put it in a steamer, that enzyme and acid does not get diluted and it reacts with the chlorophyll in the leaves of the green and it turns them that ugly, you know, that really drab green gray they turn. That's what happens when that enzyme doesn't get diluted, which is why when you're doing collards, it's always good to put them in a large pot of boiling water. And what happens then is that enzyme gets diluted enough to where it doesn't have an effect on the color and your color stays nice and bright, okay? So we've got a pot here that's boiling. I'm going to put a little bit, and I'm not putting a lot, a little bit, maybe a teaspoon, half a teaspoon of salt in that pot. I'm going to take my greens and I'm going to put them in the pot. Just put them in all at once. And then give them a good stir. Make sure they all get underneath that water. Now, you're going to simmer these for about 15 to 20 minutes. That's all. They don't need to simmer for hours and hours and hours. And the other thing about this is by doing it this way, by only using a little bit of salt, just enough to give a little flavor to that green, you're going to end up with what's called a pot liquor. Oh my gosh, pot liquor. Pot liquor is the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful liquid that's left behind. Look at the gorgeous color of that. I mean, that's yummy. Look at how beautiful green these are. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, if I had put these in a steamer, they would turn really nasty, ugly gray color. But look at that, that beautiful green, that enzyme is being diluted. It's going to keep these greens cooking beautifully. So 15 minutes from now, we're going to have beautiful collards. The color's going to be preserved a little bit. You know, they are going to turn a little bit, but you know, not like they would if you were to steam them or do something that's going to have that enzyme done. Now the pot liquor, this gorgeous color of the pot liquor is just fantastic. They say don't throw it away. What do they say to do with it? Drink it. Oh my gosh, you're going to put a little bit in a cup. Now, you're going to have a quart, maybe 2 quarts, maybe 3 quarts of water left. You're not going to sit there and chug, chug, chug 8 glasses of it, but just a little sip every now and then is a good, nice little health tonic. And it really tastes delicious, and it has a lot of those vitamins and nutrients that the collards have. And so the liquid does have some value. If you're not going to use it, save it, put it in your refrigerator, use it for making a vegetable soup, okay? Use it to cook other vegetables in, but use it like a stock, because it is really, really delicious. All right, so I'm going to turn this down and let these simmer now for about another 15 minutes, because they've only been on for a couple minutes here. When they're done, I'll just turn them down. And I'm going to serve this up later, but I want to show you some other things. Kale. We hear so much about kale these days. Kale is extremely healthy. Kale can be done in so many ways. It has so many things that you can do. We've got baby kale here. Baby kale is lovely and tender and delicious. You can just pick this up and eat it just like a salad. You can use this just like any lettuce green and make a delicious salad. Just put a little bit of lemon juice, olive oil, salt and pepper, and it's delicious. It's a good salad. However, you can get other kinds of kale as well. Look at this kind of kale. This almost looks like dinosaur skin. Look at it. It's so cool. And this is also a kind of kale. This that I showed you over here that was turning a little yellow, this is also a type of kale. Once again, we're going to pull all the stalks off of these things because the stalks just are really tough. And this is what we call a red kale. So you can see there's some varieties. These all have high nutrient value. But what I want to show you about the kale is that it needs to get washed, and you need to be very careful about washing your kale. And that is because you see how curly it is. It's got a lot of curl to it, and especially on the underside of the leaves. You really have to watch, especially when you buy the organic greens, because they're not treated with pesticides. You have to watch that there's no aphids or any extra little garden friends left attached to your greens, okay? Because they grow close to the ground, there is almost always a chance that there will be sand, dirt, and sometimes aphids or some other kind of critter might be stuck on the leaves. So what you do with it is you take them and you tear them up into whatever size you want, and you basically just dip them into a bowl of water and just gently toss them. Now you can do this in a sink, but you can certainly do this in a bowl. And what's the benefit of doing this in a bowl is because you can lift your greens up and you can see if there's any sand or dirt or critters in the bottom of the bowl. Now, if you did happen to notice an aphid or some kind of a little garden friend still on your kale, put a little bit of salt in this water, and that will help those things detach from the leaves, okay? Sometimes people like to leave it soak for a while. I'm going to put a couple more leaves in here because I do see some dirt falling off, and I do want you to see the bottom of that bowl so you see what I'm talking about. And this is what I'm talking about here about insect holes. This isn't bad, but sometimes you can find a lot of these kind of holes in the green. So when you're looking for it, you want to make sure you're choosing things that, this obviously in this whole big bunch, you go, oh, that's got a hole in it, I'm not going to buy it. Buy it. Just make sure you look on the back of the leaf, and you want to make sure that you see any little critters. You want to make sure that you get rid of them. Okay, so put them in there and just let them soak. And when you're ready to cook them, once you notice that the water underneath here is nice and clean, if you pick it up and you see some sand in the bottom, dump that out and do this again until there is no more sand in the bottom of this. And I think I'm going to be out of luck in showing you the bottom of this because they're just not very dirty. They're very clean, actually. This is especially true, folks, if you're buying the organic greens. Make sure that you do this with organic greens because they don't have any insecticides on them. And by the way, if you're buying greens, I would highly suggest you go organic with that simply because you're going to avoid a whole lot more pesticides in your food than if you don't. Okay, so that's kale. Kale you can saute it. I'm going to show you quickly in a moment or two how to cook some spinach. We're going to talk about two other greens right now. We're going to talk about arugula and we're going to talk about spinach, okay? Kale, collards are considered basically your tough greens. Arugula and spinach and baby kale, which we have here, are well considered tender greens. There's different cooking methods to them. Basically, for a tender green like spinach, you basically just need to kiss it on the flame and it's going to wilt just beautifully. And I'm going to show you how that's done just in a minute from now. You don't have to boil it like you do the collards. If you did boil it like the collards, you're going to have a boatload of spinach to even get a thimbleful out of it because the green is just so tender, it just cooks up really, really fast. I'm going to show you the best way to cook spinach in just a moment. What can you do with arugula? Arugula is an unusual, you may have heard of it. It's one of those new kinds of, I can't really say it's a new green, but it is a green that's out there in the market. I think it's gaining in popularity because just like kale is gaining in popularity. Here's a funny statistic about kale. Did you know that the largest buyer of kale for the longest time in the whole world was Pizza Hut? And it wasn't because they were serving it and putting it on their pizzas or serving it anywhere. They were using it to decorate their salad bar. And they would buy kale by the boatload and use it to decorate their salad bar. And it's the healthiest thing on the salad bar, okay? But anyway, I thought that was interesting. But anyway, arugula is one of those that are becoming in popularity just because people are becoming more aware of adding more vegetables and green things to their diets. Arugula is different than spinach. It's tender like spinach is, but it has almost in a peppery bite. It's very tasty. You can use it anywhere spinach is called for, okay? Anywhere. I like using it in salad. I can make a salad straight out of this. And once again, lemon juice, olive oil, salt, and pepper makes a great little salad for arugula. This is baby kale. Baby kale, as opposed to the mama kale, daddy kale, whatever you want to call this. You can see the difference in the size of the leaf, obviously, but you can also tell that this leaf is a little bit more tough than this leaf here being a little bit more tender. The baby kale, you can just pick it up and eat it just like you do any other kind of salad green, okay? And over here we have our spinach. Now, this is just a little something I notice about spinach. Spinach comes with stems on it. When you cook spinach, and this is the part, especially when I'm teaching here at school and the kids, oh, your job today is to do spinach. Oh, by the way, take off all the stems. Yeah, you gotta take the stems off. Why? Just because we just take the stems off. Can you leave the stems on, especially on baby spinach? Yes, you can. That really doesn't matter. I'm gonna show you right now how you're gonna clean spinach. Sometimes when you get spinach, now even though it may say triple washed on the bag, folks, you should always wash your produce, no matter what. No matter if the bag may say, or the box may say, or whatever, oh, this has been washed, you do not need to wash this. Always wash it. Why do you always have to wash it? And this is my theory, my opinion. It's because you don't know who was touching it last, okay? And this way, you make sure that there's nothing that's going to be on this spinach that you're going to want to avoid. Take it over to the water. You're going to wash it, and you're going to try and shake as much water off as possible. Don't put it in a salad spinner, because we want to have a little bit of water that still clings to the leaves. I'm going to show you why right now. We're going to take a saute pan, put it on the stove. You're going to turn it up, put it on high. I got to stir my greens over here, make sure everything's going just the way it's supposed to. Yes, sirree. Oh, yes, sirree. Yes, these are doing beautifully. Nice soft simmer. Look at this. Oh, yes. Now, these ones here are the ones that I cooked earlier, and these are so ready to be eaten. Oh, I can't wait to plate up. This is going to be delicious. It smells great. All right, my pan is hot. I'm going to get a little bit of oil, just a little bit of oil, not much, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan, okay? I'm going to take my spinach with just the enough water that's clinging to the leaves. You want to hear that pop. You want to hear that sizzle. Now watch how long this takes to cook. A little bit of salt. A little bit of pepper. You can put a little onion in here if you want to. Most importantly, when you're cooking spinach, if you add a pinch of nutmeg, it makes everything in spinach taste amazing. We're done. Huh, quiet again. Okay, now, you notice I put it back in the colander. And you notice I put the colander over a bowl. Let me get rid of my pot. And we're going to look at this, and we're going to see why in just a moment. Because you're going to see how much of this liquid drains out of this spinach. Whenever you wilt spinach, like this is called wilted spinach. Now how long did that take? That didn't take less than a minute. Even if you've got a big old pan, so that's why you always want to get a big pan and a lot of spinach, because it wilts down. And you don't even have to wait for the leaves on the top to get wilted. As long as you take it out and put it in the colander and let it like drain a little bit, everything is going to wilt. Okay, you can see that. You can see how pretty that is. And now look at how much liquid's coming out of the bottom of that too. There's a lot of liquid coming out of the bottom. So you want to drain that, because if you didn't drain that, what would happen is it would drain either all over your plate. If you're using it in an omelet, it would drain in the omelet and it would just turn out all yucky, kind of like scrambled eggs with spinach in it. If you use it in a dip, it would make your dip really runny. So you want to make sure that you do this. And you can press the water out with your spatula while it's in the colander if you like. And what can you use that spinach for? Well, we made a spinach omelet, and we're going to put it with a spinach omelet, okay? And all I'm going to do with this spinach here, now I've got spinach inside the omelet, and then whenever I have omelets or quiche or anything like that, I'll make sure all that water's out of there. Well, you know what, that's still draining. I'm gonna drain that in just a few minutes. Let that continue to drip. But what I like to do is, like if I'm having a mushroom omelet or mushroom quiche or spinach or whatever, I like to put a little bit of the cooked vegetable on top of the omelet as well. So I'm gonna do that in just a moment, okay? But I'm gonna plate up our collards, okay? Oh, this is gonna be so good. Oh, so good. So, can you tell I like these things? I don't know, I could just eat my weight in these things. They're so good. I've got a big old bowl here now. I could eat this whole pot. I literally could eat this whole pot. I'm gonna put some collards in here. Oh my goodness. So good. Haha, so delicious. Now, sometimes people like to finish their collards with a little bit of bacon. Or something I like to finish mine with is hot pepper vinegar. You take some hot pepper vinegar. This is just, wow. This, I mean, I like, yeah. A couple shots of hot pepper vinegar on there. And you know what? These lovely little things sitting on the table, I've been known to fish them out and drop them into my greens because I just love the little bites of these things. Be careful though, because they're spicy. They always say the smaller the pepper, the hotter they are. These are the perfect pepper to eat with your greens. Okay, so put some of that on there. If you wanted some bacon, you could put some bacon in there. If you didn't want to have vegetarian, you could throw some bacon on there. You can throw the bacon into the collard greens while you're cooking them if you wanted. But right now, we're going to take a bit of cornbread. Put some cornbread on the side. Greens and cornbread with hot peppers and hot pepper vinegar. And what else do you have with this kind of dinner? Well, I'll take some more cornbread. I'm going to break it up in the bottom of the bowl. You guys probably know where I'm going with this. This is such, every time this kind of cornbread and pinto beans and greens are mentioned, people go, whoa, really? I love it. So I've got cornbread in the bottom of the bowl. Going to take some pinto beans that I've simmered and seasoned, and I'm going to put them directly over the top. Oh my. And when you serve this up, make sure you don't have any drips along the side of your bowl. There you go. Pinto beans, cornbread, collard greens. Oh my gosh, with hot peppers and cornbread. I'm going to show you real quick a little salad you can put together. I've got some arugula in here, and you guys are going salad, salad, arugula, arugula. I don't know what to do. Simply put some little tomatoes, some little onions, put a little mushroom, just like you would if you were doing a spinach salad, for crying out loud. Take a little bit of lemon juice, sprinkle some lemon juice over the top of this, and put a little bit of oil, just a little bit of olive oil over the top. You can put a little accent of your salt and pepper, and serve that up. That's delicious, just as it is as well. Here's your arugula salad. You can put that out. And then I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this. Ooh, I'm not going to cover those pinto beans up because I'm going to put my fork in those just as soon as we're done here. Now, we've got our spinach. Wow, a lot of liquid came out of there. Look at that. So here we go. Putting some spinach here on the top of our omelet. Now, like I said before, guys, make sure that when you do your spinach, add that little pinch of nutmeg to it because that really does make it taste so good. Absolutely so good. And we've got some greens here we can put on the side. A little bit of arugula, a little bit of kale just for color. And there we go. Now, you can also use that spinach in making a spinach dip if you wanted. And squeeze that forward. Squeeze that forward so we can see. There we go. So now we have got collard greens, we have got cornbread, pinto beans, what to do with spinach, how to use arugula. So you know the difference now between tough and tender greens, and you know that you can have a little sip of your pot liquor at any time, which I'm going to have this as a toast to you. So enjoy your greens. Eat a lot of them. They're very, very healthy. It's like putting liquid gold into your body. You're so rich in nutrition. You're going to love it. Have some pinto beans. Have some cornbread. use spinach, use arugula, use some kale. If you're not familiar with these things, get adventurous and try them. And especially, try to buy organic if you can, just because they're going to have so much richer flavor. If you want the recipes, you can find our recipes on pbscharlotte.org. Please send me an email if there's something you want to say, something that you want me to make for you, or just to say, hey, Pamela Roberts at cpcc.edu. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, thank you for watching this episode of Charlotte Cooks, and here's to you. I'm drinking my pot liquor. Thanks for watching this episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.
A production of WTVI PBS Charlotte.